Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. My name is Claire, I'm 34, and I've been married to Ethan for almost 9 years. To anyone looking from the outside, our marriage probably looked steady. A house in the suburbs, 2 cars, Sunday brunches with friends. The kind of life people post about online and caption, grateful. But the truth was quieter, duller, and lonelier than any picture could show. Started subtly. Ethan's laughter became rarer, our dinners shorter, and our words turned into logistics. Did you pay the bill? Or, you're picking up groceries, right? I used to love how safe he made me feel, how his arms were my refuge. Now they felt like walls. I told myself it was just a phase, that love changes form over time. But deep down I miss being seen. That's when Daniel entered my life. He wasn't a stranger, he worked with me at the firm, the kind of colleague who asked how your weekend really was and listened to the answer. At first, it was just harmless conversation over coffee. Then it became lunch breaks, then late-night texts. Every boundary I crossed felt small enough to justify. We're just talking, I told myself. I need someone to talk to. But I wasn't just talking. I was filling the silence Ethan left behind. One Friday, a storm rolled through the city. Power flickered at the office, and most people left early. Daniel offered to drive me home. The rain was heavy, the streets flooded, and somewhere between laughter and the sound of windshield wipers, I forgot about my ring. When we reached my house, I didn't want to say goodbye. We sat in the car for a while, headlights off, just the sound of rain hitting the roof. I could feel the tension hanging in the air. Fragile, dangerous, magnetic. He said quietly, "You deserve to feel loved again." I didn't know if it was the storm outside or the one inside me, but I leaned forward before I could think. It wasn't a kiss born out of passion. It was desperation. It was everything I hadn't felt in years pressed into a single mistake. When I finally pulled away, my heart was pounding with guilt and longing all at once. "Claire," he whispered, "you don't have to explain." But I wanted to. I wanted to explain to myself why it happened, why I couldn't stop needing warmth. He left soon after, leaving me standing at my front door, soaked and trembling. I told myself I would never let it go that far again. That it was a moment of weakness I could bury and forget. For a few days I tried to act normal. I smiled at Ethan, cooked dinner, even laughed at his tired jokes. But guilt is a shadow that doesn't fade when the lights come back on. Every time he looked at me, I wondered if he could see it, if he knew. Then came the night everything broke open. Ethan was supposed to be out of town for work. I had planned to spend the evening alone, wine, a movie, maybe some sleep for once. Around 8 p.m. I heard a knock at the door. It was Daniel. He looked nervous, holding an umbrella dripping on the porch. "I just needed to see you," he said softly. I should have told him to leave. Every part of me knew it. But loneliness has a way of quieting reason. We sat on the couch. He reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. For a moment, everything felt still, the world outside, the guilt, the noise. Just 2 people in a fragile illusion of comfort. His arms wrapped around me, and I felt both safe and completely lost. And then, the sound that froze everything, the creak of the front door opening. Ethan's voice. "Claire." Time stopped. Daniel's hand slipped from mine. My heart slammed against my ribs. I turned around, and there he was, standing in the doorway, suitcase still in hand, rain dripping from his jacket, eyes fixed on us. Ethan's gaze swept over us, lingering just a second too long on Daniel's hand brushing against mine. The room felt smaller all at once, the air heavy with tension, rainwater, and betrayal. Daniel's face went pale, and he muttered something that sounded like an apology, but I couldn't hear it over the thudding of my own heartbeat. I opened my mouth to speak, to explain, to deny, but no words came. My throat was tight, my tongue heavy with guilt. I wanted to dissolve into the couch and pretend the last 30 seconds had never happened. Ethan stepped further into the room, suitcase in one hand, eyes hard and steady. He didn't shout. He didn't break anything. He didn't even look angry in the traditional sense. He looked hurt, measured, like he was seeing a truth he had been avoiding for a long time. "Claire," he said quietly, voice calm, deliberate. "We need to talk." It wasn't a question. It wasn't an accusation. It was a line drawn in the living room, a moment that demanded clarity. Daniel stood, awkward and defeated. I should go," he stammered, retreating toward the door. I wanted to call after him, to beg him to stay, to tell him everything would be okay. But I didn't. I realized in that heartbeat that he had nothing left to do in this story. Ethan's eyes never left mine. He placed the suitcase down and crossed his arms. "Did you forget who you promised your life to?" he asked softly, not loud, not dramatic, just real. The truth hit me harder than the rain outside ever could. I had forgotten. Forgotten the nights Ethan stayed awake when I was sick. Forgotten the weekends he spent fixing the plumbing instead of sleeping in. Forgotten the man who had carried more of our life than I ever noticed. I had lost sight of him, of us, and I had sought comfort in the wrong place. I sank to the couch, my hands covering my face, the reality pressing down on me like water. "Ethan, He sat down beside me, not angrily, not judgmentally, but carefully. Close enough to touch, but distant enough to remind me that the trust had been fractured. "Talk to me," he said. I swallowed the lump in my throat and told him everything. The loneliness, the texts, the lunch breaks, the stormy night in the car. Every word felt like a confession, a release, and a wound opened and cleaned all at once. I expected anger, but all I felt was a quiet sorrow settling over us both. When I finished, Ethan leaned back, looking away for a moment, as if gathering the pieces of his own heart. Then he turned back to me. "Claire, I love you," he said, voice low but firm. "But love isn't just words, and it isn't just comfort. It's presence. It's honesty. And right now, you've been absent in ways I never imagined possible." Tears slid down my cheeks, but I nodded. "I know. I lost my way. I was selfish and My words faltered. I didn't want to make excuses. There were none that mattered. Ethan reached out and took my hand. "I'm willing to try. But you need to be here. Really here. No hiding, no seeking elsewhere. If we want to fix this, it starts with truth. Total truth, even when it hurts." And in that moment, I realized how fragile and resilient love could be at the same time. I'd been reckless, yes. But standing there with Ethan looking at me with both disappointment and willingness, I also saw a chance to rebuild if I dared to be brave enough. Daniel was gone. The storm had passed, and the house smelled of wet grass and rain-soaked pavement. The night felt quiet again, but different. Heavier with consequence, yes, but also alive with the possibility of redemption. Ethan and I didn't hug immediately. We didn't pretend the past week, the past mistake, had never happened. We just sat, fingers entwined, breathing in silence that was finally shared, not empty. I knew it wouldn't be easy. Trust doesn't mend overnight. Guilt doesn't evaporate with an apology. But the first step was here, in this small room, with him not turning away, with both of us willing to face what had been broken and what could be repaired. I learned something that night. Love isn't only about comfort or passion. It's about accountability, presence, and the courage to face your mistakes, even when someone you love is hurt. And maybe, just maybe, surviving the storm means holding on to the person who waited for you through the rain, even when you almost walked away.